Hi and welcome to another tutorial for the CG Brothers. In this tutorial we're going to do a soft body simulation in Maya, and we're going to bring that into 3D Studio Max because 3D Studio Max currently, in its current version 2012, no longer has soft body solvers. They only have mass effects, and that's a rigid body solver because reactor is no longer part of the package. They determined that only about 3% of the people that even use 3D Studio Max use reactors, so they decided to take it out, and probably for a few other reasons. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's create a polygon primitive, and we're going to use the platonic solid. It seems to deform better than the normal primitive solid, primitive sphere. And let's smooth that a few times. Alright, so we'll move that up. Let's create a ground plane to interact with, which will just be a cube. Okay, now I'm just going to zero those out so it goes to 0, 0, 0. Okay, that looks good. Alright, let's go ahead and assign a quick material, blend material to it, just so we can see a little bit better. And I'll throw a checkered texture on there. And I'll change this to red, and this to blue. Why? Because I just want to. And this UV coordinate here, we'll go ahead and repeat the texture a little bit. And if you look in the viewport, you'll see that the UV mapping coordinates are all jacked up. They're not right, but you can go back in later and UV that correctly if you want to. But for this, we don't need to. So let's go ahead and create, under the dynamics, N dynamics, we'll create a Ncloth, and accept all the default settings currently. And we'll go ahead and create a passive collider, so this will collide with that. And I wrote down a few settings from before when I did a quick simulation, and I did made it look a little bit better than the default settings. So let's go ahead and increase that. So let's go to the tab for nucleus, and we're going to increase the gravity to 40. And then we're going to go to the actual Ncloth itself, and we're going to set a few parameters in there that are a little bit different. So we'll set the thickness, actually I'll set that to 0.374. Set the bounds to 5. Friction we'll leave alone. And now the dynamic properties here, stretch, resistance, and compression, these have a lot of values. So if you mess with those, this will look significantly different each time you do it. So let's go ahead and set the stretch to 10. And the resistance for compression is 0.1. Bend resistance 0.05. Keep those the same. Rigidity, we'll change that to 0.050. And I believe everything else is the same. Oh, the mass, let's get that, let's boost that up from 1 to 1000. Okay. And lift is the same. Everything else is the same. Good. Okay, so there we go. Now if we push play, you can see what it looks like. And hopefully the frame rate, you can see it is kind of chugging a little bit on mine, because I'm running both Max and Maya on my laptop. Okay, so that's good enough. And that's done. So what we want to do now is we want to create a cache for this, an XML file, so it has all this data for the soft body. And we're going to go ahead and import that in to 3D Studio Max. So let's create an N cache for that. Create a new cache. I already created one earlier, and we're going to replace it. And what it basically does is has all the point information for this particular object, so it knows which points are deforming. Alright, so it created it for all 350 frames. Let's go ahead and export this scene file. Export all. And again, just like some of my other tutorials, we're going to do an FBX export. Film box. Export. We're going to overwrite the one I did earlier before recording this, and we're going to do meters. So let's export that out. Open 3DCO Max, and let's go ahead and import that file. There it is. I called it drop, and we want to import this in centimeters. Alright, let's view that full screen. Okay. Okay, so now if you were to go ahead and just push play, you would not see it interacting. So if we just push play, nothing happens because there's no information for this ball to use to deform. So what we need to do now is create a modifier on that sphere, and we're going to create a point cache for that. Okay, your cache file, we need to load that, which is that XML file that was created. Say OK. Now you push play, and you'll see it deform.